What if everything you believe about your identity, your personality, your memories, even your sense of self is actually an illusion created by your brain? Recent neuroscience suggests this might be exactly the case.
That's such a mind-bending concept to start with. I mean, most people go through life assuming they have this fixed, stable identity.
Well, here's what's fascinating. When we are born, we have absolutely no sense of self. We're just pure sensation and basic needs. Everything else, our entire identity, gets downloaded into us through experiences and relationships.
So you're saying our whole concept of who we are is essentially constructed after the fact?
Exactly. And neuroscience shows something even more surprising. Our brains are constantly rewriting our personal narrative. You know how people say, just be yourself? Well, there isn't really a fixed yourself to be.
That's wild when you think about it. So how do our brains actually manage this constant identity construction?
Picture your brain as this incredibly complex committee meeting. You've got different neural circuits competing for control. The part that wants to eat the cake, the part that wants to stick to the diet, the part that's worried about what others think.
Oh, wow. So when we feel torn about a decision, those are literally different parts of our brain fighting for dominance.
Precisely. And here's where it gets really interesting. Studies show that the you that emerges in any given moment is simply whichever circuit wins out. Your blood sugar levels, sleep quality, recent social interactions, they all influence which version of you takes control.
So you're telling me I'm literally a different person when I'm hungry versus when I'm well fed?
Yeah. And it goes even deeper. Research has shown that our memories, which we think form the foundation of our identity, are incredibly unreliable. Every time you recall a memory, your brain actually reconstructs it from scratch.
Well, that explains why different family members can have completely different recollections of the same event.
Right. And get this. Studies have demonstrated that we can even develop completely false memories that feel just as real as genuine ones. Some research suggests up to 70% of our childhood memories might be significantly distorted or entirely fabricated.
That's honestly terrifying. How can we trust anything about ourselves if everything is so fluid?
You know, that's where this understanding becomes surprisingly liberating. Instead of trying to discover some mythical true self, we can focus on consciously creating who we want to be in each moment.
Like shifting from searching to creating. But how do we maintain any consistency in our lives?
Think of it like tending a garden rather than building a house. A garden is always changing. Plants grow, bloom, and die, but it can still have an overall design and purpose. Recent psychological studies suggest that people who embrace this fluid view of identity actually show greater resilience and adaptability.
So what does this mean for relationships? How do we connect with others if we're all constantly changing?
Well, research in relationship psychology suggests that the most successful long-term partnerships aren't built on finding someone who perfectly matches some fixed version of yourself. Instead, they're based on finding someone who can grow and change with you.
That's fascinating. So maybe the whole concept of compatibility needs to be rethought.
Exactly. And studies show that couples who understand this tend to have more satisfying relationships because they are not trying to force each other to maintain some unchanging version of themselves.
But what about our core values and principles? Don't we need some stable foundation?
Like a compass rather than a fixed map, the direction can remain consistent even as the terrain changes. Research in moral psychology shows that our fundamental values tend to be more stable than our personalities or preferences.
That's actually really helpful. So it's not about having no structure at all, but about having a structure that allows for growth.
Precisely. And here's something fascinating from recent studies. People who accept their fluid nature show better mental health outcomes and greater life satisfaction compared to those who try to maintain a rigid sense of self.
That makes so much sense when you think about it. Fighting against change is exhausting.
And ultimately futile. The latest research in neuroplasticity shows our brains are literally designed to change and adapt throughout our lives. Trying to maintain a fixed identity goes against our basic biology.
This whole conversation has really shifted my perspective on personal growth and authenticity.
You know what's really interesting? Studies of successful people across different fields show that those who achieve the most tend to be the ones who are comfortable reinventing themselves multiple times throughout their lives.
So maybe instead of asking, who am I really? We should be asking, who do I want to become?
Exactly. And neuroscience supports this approach. Our brains actually function better when we maintain this growth-oriented mindset rather than a fixed one.
This has been incredibly enlightening. Any final thoughts for our listeners who might be feeling a bit unmoored by all this?
Well, remember that accepting your fluid nature doesn't mean you lack continuity or stability. You're more like a river than a statue, constantly flowing and changing, but still following patterns and maintaining certain essential qualities. The research shows that embracing this truth leads to greater psychological freedom and resilience.
Thank you for taking us on this fascinating journey into the nature, or should I say, the illusion of self.
Until next time, keep flowing, keep growing, and remember, the only mistake is thinking you're supposed to stay the same.